Walk through the Roman Forum today and you're surrounded by ghosts. Shattered temples, crumbling arches, these are more than just tourist attractions. They're the bones of a civilization so vast, so influential, it's hard to wrap your head around it. This wasn't some forgotten tribe in the jungle. This was the Roman Empire, and its fingerprints are all over the world we live in, whether we realize it or not. We're talking about the kind of empire that inspired Shakespeare, that shaped the very concept of law and order for centuries. But it wasn't all togas and triumphal marches. This was an empire built on conquest, on slavery, on the kind of brutal pragmatism that makes you question the meaning of civilization itself. To understand the Roman Empire is to understand a paradox, a civilization capable of breathtaking beauty and unspeakable cruelty, often in the same breath. It's a history lesson that's both exhilarating and deeply unsettling. It's a story that's over 1,500 years old, but in a lot of ways it's still being written. It all started small. Not with a bang, but with a whimper, a collection of villages on the Tiber River, a backwater in the Mediterranean world. But these weren't your typical villages. These were the Romans, and they had a knack for warfare, for organization, for bending others to their will. They fought their neighbors, conquered them, assimilated them. They built roads not just to move armies, but to connect their growing empire. They established a republic, a novel idea at the time, with a senate and elected officials. It wasn't perfect, not by a long shot, but it was a system built for expansion, for consolidating power, and expand they did. Across Italy, then into Gaul, Spain, North Africa. They clashed with rivals like Carthage, fought brutal wars that nearly broke them. But each victory brought more territory, more wealth, more power. By the time Julius Caesar marched on Rome, crossing the Rubicon and ending the Republic in a shower of blood, the die was cast. The Roman Republic was dead. Long live the Roman Empire. From the reign of Augustus, the first emperor, to the fall of Constantinople in 1453, the Roman Empire endured for almost 1,500 years. Let that sink in for a moment. That's longer than the United States has even existed. It's a testament to their resilience, their adaptability, their ruthlessness. But it wasn't a monolithic entity, this Roman Empire. It went through periods of incredible wealth and stability, the Pax Romana, where trade flourished and the arts prospered. But it also suffered through civil wars, barbarian invasions, plagues that decimated the population. Emperors rose and fell, some wise, some utterly insane. And yet, through it all, the empire endured. Its legions marched, its laws were enforced, its culture spread like wildfire. They built aqueducts and amphitheaters, wrote poetry and philosophy, developed systems of governance and warfare that influenced civilizations for centuries to come. It's a legacy that's impossible to ignore. We look at the Roman Republic and we see the seeds of our own governments, the Senate, the assemblies, the concept of elected officials representing the people. It wasn't a democracy as we know it, not by a long shot. The Roman system was built for a different time, a different place. It was a system rife with corruption, with inequality baked into its core. The wealthy and powerful held sway, while the poor and disenfranchised often had little say in their own governance. And yet the ideals, however flawed in practice, resonated. The idea that power should be shared, that citizens have a voice, that laws should be codified and applied equally, at least in theory, these were revolutionary concepts for their time. They may have taken root in the blood-soaked soil of Roman ambition, but these ideas would take on a life of their own, echoing down through the centuries, to inspire revolutionaries and reformers across the globe. Roman law, the foundation of justice? You can't talk about the Roman legacy without talking about law. The Romans were obsessed with it, with codifying every aspect of life, from property rights to family disputes to the punishment for crimes. They believed in a universal system of justice, one that applied to all citizens, at least in theory. This wasn't just some abstract concept. They carved their laws in stone, literally, and displayed them in public forums for all to see. These weren't suggestions, these were the rules, enforced by the might of the Roman legions. They built courthouses, trained lawyers, established a complex legal system that was remarkably sophisticated for its time. And it wasn't just about punishment. Roman law also dealt with contracts, with inheritance, with the complexities of commerce in a vast empire. It provided a framework for resolving disputes, for ensuring some semblance of order in a chaotic world. It's no coincidence that Roman law, or at least elements of it, formed the basis for legal systems in Europe and beyond for centuries to come. Concrete, aqueducts and roads engineering marvels. Here's the thing about the Romans, they were practical. They didn't just conquer territories, they conquered the very landscape itself. They built roads, not just dirt paths, but paved highways that stretched for thousands of miles, connecting their vast empire with a network of arteries that facilitated trade, communication, and military deployment. And then there were the aqueducts, those marvels of engineering that carried fresh water from distant mountains to bustling cities. They built bridges that defied gravity, arches that seemed to mock the very notion of time. And let's not forget concrete. Yes, concrete, that ubiquitous building material that we take for granted today. The Romans invented it, perfected it, used it to construct everything from temples to bathhouses to the Colosseum, a testament to their ingenuity and their enduring legacy. Language and literature. The enduring influence of Latin. Latin, the language of Caesar, of Virgil, of Cicero. It wasn't just a language, it was a tool of empire, a way to unify a vast and diverse population under a common cultural banner. Roman soldiers carried it to the farthest reaches of the empire. Merchants used it to barter for goods. Scholars wrote treatises on philosophy, law, and history. And even though the Roman Empire itself is long gone, Latin lived on. It became the language of the Catholic Church, the language of scholarship and diplomacy for centuries. It influenced the development of Romance languages like French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Romanian, leaving an indelible mark on the linguistic landscape of Europe and beyond. Pax Romana and its discontents. For 2 centuries, from the reign of Augustus to the death of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman Empire experienced a period of unprecedented peace and prosperity known as the Pax Romana. Trade flourished, the arts and literature thrived, and the empire expanded to its greatest extent. But this peace came at a cost. It was a peace maintained by the sword, by the ever-present threat of Roman legions stationed throughout the empire. It was a peace that masked deep-seated social and economic tensions simmering beneath the surface of Roman society. Slavery was rampant, the gap between rich and poor was vast, and the empire's reliance on conquest to fuel its economy created a system that was inherently unstable. The fall of giants. Nothing lasts forever, not even the Roman Empire. By the 3rd century AD, the cracks were starting to show. Barbarian tribes, pushed by climate change and their own ambitions, pressed against the empire's borders. Internal strife, economic woes, and a series of weak and ineffective emperors weakened the empire from within. The Western Roman Empire, beset by internal divisions and external pressures, finally crumbled in 476 AD, when the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was deposed by a Germanic general named Odoacer. The Eastern Roman Empire, centered in Constantinople, would endure for another 1,000 years. But the Roman world as it was known was gone. The empire that had once seemed eternal had fallen, a victim of its own success and the relentless march of time. The Roman Empire, a legacy of innovation and brutality? So what's the legacy of the Roman Empire? It's a mixed bag, to say the least. On the one hand, they gave us roads, aqueducts, concrete, a legal system that influenced the world. They spread Greek culture and philosophy, preserved knowledge, and created a period of peace and prosperity that allowed art, literature, and science to flourish. But we can't forget the dark side. This was an empire built on conquest, on slavery, on the systematic exploitation of conquered peoples. They were ruthless in their ambition, often brutal in their methods. The Pax Romana, for all its benefits, was a peace bought with blood. Conclusion: what if Carthage won the Punic Wars? The Roman Empire is a paradox, a study in contrasts. It's a reminder that even the greatest civilizations are not immune to decline and fall, that power is fleeting, and that even the most enduring legacies are often built on a foundation of both triumph and tragedy. It makes you wonder, what if things had gone differently? What if Hannibal had triumphed at Cannae? What if the barbarians had been held at bay? Would the Roman Empire still stand today? Or was its fall inevitable, a necessary step in the long, messy, and often brutal story of human civilization? These are the questions that continue to fascinate historians and armchair enthusiasts alike, ensuring that the Roman Empire, in all its complexity and contradiction, continues to capture our imaginations centuries after its fall.